We've been talking about this, the quarter-final draw for the Women's League Cup, which was hosted by the influencer GK Barry. Let's have a listen to it.
Send a galaxy if you think I've got a bigger bum than Ella. We love a big doll. Yeah. These are my balls. Right here on show. Get a load of it. Usually I'd charge. Lesbian handling balls. Never been seen before. Sorry about the travel, sweethearts. What do we think of Tottenham? If anyone's turned on by me doing this, send a galaxy. Me wee hen. We should spank for luck. Bit of fun.
Oh, no.
It's a sort of little cut together.
Yeah.
I mean, there were other bits of the draw where they were just doing the normal bits. That was like a fast cut of all, I guess, of all the least Bert Millerchip moments of that draw. I would so the idea of Bert Millerchip and Graham Kelly doing that. Anyway, Uma Gurav, as a women's football expert, joins us now. Hey, Uma.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, good, thanks. And like, it's easy to laugh at that. And I heard Catherine Batt in the sports headlines saying, look, this is embarrassing because the competition needs help. And this just makes it look a bit cheap. And it does, because it looked like just two people standing at a Subway, as in the sandwich brand, just doing the draw as if I used to do like mock rehearsal draws with Kinder Egg, cases when I was hosting mid-morning occasionally, and Perry Groves was really up for it and Danny Murphy wasn't. But like, it does look cheap, doesn't it, Uma? I don't know how seriously we should be taking this.
Yeah, look, I think you can have fun with a draw and still take it seriously. I think nobody is coming out here and saying, oh, look, you shouldn't try and attract new fans to the League Cup and you shouldn't try and make the draw engaging. But that's not what has happened here. I mean, we've got to a situation where Tottenham have received an official apology from WSL Football because they've been mocked. You heard there, what do we think of Tottenham? That, in an official draw, it's not appropriate. And, now one club we know have asked for the full footage of the draw to be released because it's actually not out there. And you can kind of see why, from an official standpoint, that's quite a controversial thing to have out there. It's not just that happened. I mean, we didn't see it in that little cut together, but at one point, GK Barry kind of drops she takes out a ball, she drops it back into the bag accidentally and then pulls it back out again. And we're told that the adjudicator verified that it was the same ball that she had pulled back out again. But if that hadn't been the case, the whole draw would have been null and void. So I think there's two discussions here. The first is, about the professionalism of a draw. And I think that criteria wasn't met. It wasn't professional at all. And that should never happen. The second question we ask is it appropriate to have an influencer who clearly knows nothing about women's football doing a draw like this just for the sake of attracting new audiences? And my response to that has to be, when there's so many people who know so much about women's football, it's not really needed.
And when we've got so many household names as well, you think it's such an odd booking, and it's all very well bringing eyeballs to the sport, but you want them to come in the right way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is a problem that's facing a lot of companies who want to increase the attention around women's football. It's how do we do it? How do we organically get fans into the sport, whether those are men's football fans who are migrating over or whether it's completely new fans? Yeah. And it's a hard question because you don't want to just sort of copy the men's game. I think it is a different audience, but also you don't just want to descend to the point where you're like, let's just make it a kind of cultural thing where we get influencers in and get people, because, yes, you can make the argument getting an influencer like GK Barry and makes people watch the draw. And I think a lot of people are aware of this draw because of this has happened. But how many people do you think can actually tell you who has got who in the draw? This is the thing that's been lost.
That is a really good point. And also, lots of people watch the draw, but how many, if you trying to attract new fans, of course, that is. And you saw this with the Halo thing from Sky, right? Trying to get new audiences is what everyone is trying to do all the time, right? I mean, me and Charlie don't have meetings about trying to get new audiences for our shows, but we want new audiences, right? That is a key. But sort of working out what you want to do and then trying to do it is really difficult. And so for someone to go, okay, if we get someone incredibly famous who knows nothing about the draw, people might watch the draw, but are they then going to watch one of the games in the Women's League Cup? That's quite a big jump, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think, what I love about women's football and what I've always loved about it is the audiences and the fans. They're so diverse. You can't put them into a box. And in some ways, that's why brands are struggling to identify a strategy, because it's not just one kind of person who watches women's football. It's a load of people who maybe feel that men's football wasn't accepting enough of them. It's people who want to connect to the players in a different way. And like you say, having GK Barry do the draw, I'm not then going to go and watch Liverpool Chelsea because of that. But if I had, for example, I don't know, like an ex-footballer, a journalist who can tell me why this is a big game, why, at this point in the season, actually Liverpool and Chelsea just played each other last week, and despite not having a win all season, Liverpool got a point off Chelsea. That's why you should go and watch them in the quarter-final. And that didn't come across, I mean, GK Barry was saying, and this, by the way, I don't think this is her fault at all.
No.
She's just come in and that's who she is. But she's not been briefed on this properly. But yeah, I think the organisers should have done better. And I think they'll know that now.
Unfortunately, as well, it will be remembered because the only two draws that most people remember in men's football are the one that Trump did and the one that Rod Stewart did. And so you go, well, I've remembered those. I can't remember many. I mean, I've watched hundreds of them.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about the Rod Stewart one, that was everyone just thought it was funny, right? And it wasn't professional, but maybe it was just the right side of the line because he didn't drop the balls. I mean, I absolutely loved it. I do have sympathy with, the people that are trying to grow any sport, right? Because actually, the real growth comes organically from word of mouth and all those things. But if you're in a position where your job is to grow something, you can't just say, it'll happen. like you won't get, you won't keep your job if that happens. Can I ask you more as well about the Crystal Palace midfielder Rushia Littlejohn? And a lot of people have seen the footage of this. She could be set for a lengthy ban after the FA said its standard punishment for her sending off was clearly insufficient. And there's this bit of a melee, and then she gets pushed in the back, and she's clearly annoyed about it. And she basically does, I mean, it's a wrestling move, really. Sort of grabs a clothesline from behind and slams someone to the ground. It's and I don't think I'm overstating it by how I've described that, Uma. I don't know what you think.
No, look, any way that you look at it, and the footage has been released, I think, in the last day or so, and it is out there. And when you watch it through, I think what Rushia does, it's not good. And I think you can see she kind of puts Hannah Kane into a headlock and does wrestle her to the ground. And like you say, this is now under review. She's got a 3-match ban at the moment. That could be upgraded. We'll see what way that goes. I think we'll find out pretty soon. I think the thing here, like you say, we need to kind of balance the need for punishing this appropriately alongside this idea where I think there's a lot of people in women's football who pick out certain characters, and Rushia Littlejohn is one of them. We know her here at talkSPORT. Of course, she does the kickback. She's very outspoken, and she is one of those characters who speaks her mind. And what I've noticed in the last couple of days is that the pile-on social media for calls for Rushia to be banned for life and this kind of thing, she is receiving what I think is a disproportionate amount of hatred. Absolutely, this needs to be looked at and needs to be punished appropriately. And I hope that it will be, but I don't think that, this outside noise should be brought in and put to bear on that. So we'll see what happens with Rushia, of course. It's not a good incident. I think she'd be the first to admit that, though. And I don't think it should be overstated. Like she puts her in a headlock, and I've seen people saying, she puts her hands around her neck and she could have, it's too much, I think, to say. Just state the incident for what it is and punish it accordingly.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Uma. Thanks for coming on.
Uma. Brilliant.